What's going on? This is Michael Ducil. I'm here with my man, Mr. Ash Cash himself. How's it going, my man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
No problem. Well, first and foremost, for those who don't know, I'm actually going to give Ash an opportunity to introduce himself, give you a little background of who he is, where he's been. So, Ash, man, take it away.
So my name is Ash Exantis. Most people know me as Ash Cash. I am who they call the financial motivator, financial expert, wealth coach, author, motivational speaker. Started my career in the banking world and did 15 years in banking, from teller to personal banker, private banker, CEO of a credit union. I currently work with a all digital bank called Bank Mobile. And I help, produce all the financial content to over 2 million customers. And so that's my career background. But prior to that, I grew up in the St. Nicholas houses. So I'm a guy who has his PhD, as I like to say, but not my doctorate degree, but my public housing degree. Because I grew up in the projects and grew up in humble beginnings. Been a hustler and a grinder for all my life. So I packed bags at the age of 8 years old at the local supermarket. I sold T-shirts and mixed CDs at 12 and 125th Street. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've written 5 books. 2 of them were bestsellers. Mindwriting, Money-Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom was my first bestseller. It was number 7 on Amazon.com. Then I had What the FICO, which is actually my best-selling book to date. What the FICO, 12 Steps to Repair Your Credit. But I had three other books that I've written. I'm just a humble servant. I am somebody who understands that in order to get your life right on all perspectives, whether it's money, whether it's relationship, whether it's anything that you want to do in life, it's all about a mindset. And so that's what I teach. I'm the chief mindset architect, where I teach people how to change their mind in order to get their primarily finances right, but overall how to get their life right.
Awesome. So you spoke a little bit about the mind right, and that's key, because as you continue to go up in the ladder, whether it's corporately or your mindset, a lot of things change. So you got into banking,
yep.
But you said you came from humble beginnings. You grew up in the projects in St. Nick in Harlem. What transitioned you from having that mindset,
yep.
Of being a hustler, being in the streets, to becoming switching into the banking realm?
At the time, it was my only option, right? So, I'm an 80s baby, right? So I grew up in the 80s, 90s. And if you understand what was happening in New York City, right? Not just Harlem, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, around the world, there was a big drug epidemic. And so a lot of people who look like me, the only option they really had, or they thought they had, was really drug dealing. And so, I've seen a lot of things, growing up as a kid. I'm a father now. I have a 9-year-old, I have a 2-year-old. And when I think about the stuff that I saw at 9, the stuff that I saw at 10, 11, I can't even, my daughter won't even, be part of that. And so just being someone who was so up close to crime, to drugs, to all of what life offered a young guy growing up in a city, there were only 2 options, and I saw this firsthand, where you're either gonna die or you're gonna go to jail. And I just decided that wasn't my story. I wasn't going to allow it to be my story. So at the time, corporate America was the only option. It was like, get a job and start to actually use the same skill set that you successfully got in trouble with, right? So, and when I say successfully got in trouble, I mean you did bad things but didn't really get caught. And it takes a level of ingenuity. It takes a level of smarts to be able to do that. And so use that same skill set to be successful in corporate America. And that's what happened. I kind of used a lot of the let's say street lessons and used that in the banking field, and I was able to move up really fast. I was the vice president at one of the largest financial institutions in the world, JP Morgan Chase, at 24 years old. And so it was just that transition. And I always teach people now, don't work to earn, work to learn. And that's how I got my start, right? If you know, it's one thing if you grow up in an environment where you are close to business, you know people who have businesses, then, you could just learn from them. Like my daughter, as I mentioned, she's 9 years old. When she was 3, we wrote a book together. She's been coming to me to speaking engagements for God knows how long. We do tables at flea markets and sell books. And so she knows, how to be an entrepreneur. So I'm teaching her what I know. But if you're from an environment where you don't have anyone to teach you, you're gonna have to learn. You have to learn, and so how do you learn? You learn through corporate America. So that's why don't work to earn, work to learn, and that's what I did. I learned about business. I learned about how to structure a business, how to market a business, how to promote a business, and did that very well for 10, 15 years, and then decided it's time for me to jump out on faith, but on grind too. Because as the Honorable Jay-Z says, in order to be on your own, you have to own your own, right? So in order to own your own, you have to be free. So and that's how I took the corporate America experience and then decided to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, and I'm actually going to jump into Jay-Z a little bit.
Yeah.
What you think about his recent album 444?
Yep.
I'm sure you listened to it.
Absolutely, it's on repeat right now.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But before I get into that, so now that you kind of separate yourself from the corporate America banking industry, you told me a little bit. You had a retirement party at 30.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this retirement party.
Man.
What happened with that?
Yeah. So it was sort of premature. And so I was 29 years old, about to turn 30, and I already started getting that entrepreneurship bug, the itch, and I at that time I had already had major success in banking. I made a lot of money, and I said, man, if I could make all this money for a bank, I could do it for myself. And so, right before I turned 30, I had a retirement party at the 4040 Club. Shout out to Jay. I had a retirement party at the 4040 Club. Everybody came out, we celebrated, and I did well actually. After that, on my own for about a year and a half. But then, around 2012-ish. I was losing contracts. I didn't fully set up my entrepreneur grind the right way, and I was solely reliant on my physical labor, and so I was relying on the grind. I was relying on me working, and so when I lost 2 major contracts, that was the bulk of my money that I was making. I was still making money. I was still actually super duper popular. I was, Hot 97, Ebony had just did something on me, Essence had did something, so I was super duper popular. People knew my name, but I wasn't making money. And so I actually almost lost my house, so I'm a homeowner. I was a homeowner at 25. I almost lost my home to foreclosure. It was one of the most embarrassing times in my life because you got to think about it. I'm traveling the country, I'm on radio, telling people how to, make money. Mm-hmm. And then here I am, because I didn't set up my, finances the right way. I'm in the process of losing my home. And so I had to jump back in. And so I went back to work. Banking was what I knew, so Citibank at the time was looking for somebody to manage a branch for them in Harlem, and I said, no brainer, so I jumped back in. This time, just made sure I was still doing my entrepreneur stuff, and this time I jumped in and made sure that I used my money wisely, and then I started to look at what are ways where I could create passive income where I don't really have to work on. So I invested in real estate a little bit, where I have tenants to help at least take care of the basic necessities. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I started writing more books. I started doing things that will give me a check without me having to physically be there.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, I'm happy you said that, because a lot of people, they only see the wins and never the losses.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of times people lose a lot more than they win.
Yeah.
But no one ever remembers. Successful people typically, that I've noticed, they don't really talk too much about their losses, just their wins, and that's what people are remembered for. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think did your losses mold you, and if so, how much of a deterrent was it for you? Because a lot of times when you lose, people quit.
Yeah.
Right. And it's tough internally to take you. Like you said, you were super popular.
Yeah.
People knew you.
Yeah.
But amongst your popularity, you wasn't really making any money.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, you owned your truth. Like, hey, I wasn't making money, but you're super popular. How did you kind of handle that transition, and where did that come from?
Yeah, I think the loss, that particular loss, was the best thing that happened to me in my life, because it, you know, helped shape how I do business going forward. It helped shape my humility, right? Because you know, it was about me. You know, I had a big ego. Because you got to think about it, right? By 30 years old, like I made a lot of money, you know, and so, you know, I was super duper, like, you know, me against the world. Nobody could touch me, you know, and I thought I was that guy, and so I used my success. Like, my success became who I was, and so you know, what God did was strip me of all of that and said, "Who are you without it?" Right? So now go home. You know, you got a 2-year-old daughter, you got a wife, and now you're sitting in front of a for sale sign because you can't afford your home. So, are you still Ash Cash? Like, who are you? You know, and that was the most humbling part, because I realized that, yeah, I'm still the same guy. I still know the same information. I'm still confident in the information I have. You know, God, the universe was just trying to show me something. And then so I learned from that. And, you know, it's one of those things that I realized that you're not a failure when you fail. You're a failure when you give up. And so, you know, that's just life. Anybody who's been successful will tell you that they have actually failed more times than they've been successful, but the reason why they have been successful is because they never gave up. And so, you know, that is what I realized, and I move every single day of my life. I move that way. I never lose, right? Like, I don't even understand what loss is, because as long as I have breath in my body, I'm going to be successful. And that's because I understand that failure is actually a part of success, right? People usually, what they try to do is they try to make it seem as if failure is the opposite of success, that's totally false. Giving up is the opposite of success, but failure is actually a road that you're going to have to take on your way to success. And so once I realized that, and I actually try to teach people this and make people realize that who cares? Like, you want to fail, actually. You want to fail fast and hard, because the faster you fail, the faster you know what not to do. And then once you weed everything out, there's but so many routes, right? There's not a million ways to success. There's probably, you know, 5, 6, 10 maybe, right? And so if you try 9 and you fail at 9, guess what? That 10th one is it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it humbled me. It taught me a lot about myself, and I'm happy it happened. Wouldn't change it. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world, because, you know, even after I realized it, you know, I've got some more wins, right? But this time the wins are not, you know, I'm not as flashy about the win. I'm not, you know, pushing the wins in nobody's faces, because I realize it's not about me. You know, God is using me as a vessel. You know, I was able to be born in the projects, low income, and relate to so many people for a particular reason. So my story is not really my story. My story is for everyone else that I can inspire and motivate. And so when I realized that I'm just a humble servant, it just makes my job much easier, and it actually allows me to win more, right? Because the more I win, the more I could be of service to others. And that's the one switch that I had to make in myself in order to be successful, is realize that's not about me. Yes, I'm benefiting, you know, financially, spiritually, you know, from the wins, but other people benefit as well, because the more I could win, the more I can help people, you know, change their mindsets and win as well.
Excellent. So you shifted your mind. You were able to, you know, make a lot of money. You were humbled, you know, when you lost a lot of it, essentially. And once that switch happened, you ultimately kind of started to elevate. Now, not only did you have, you know, the wealth in order, you did some sort of fitness challenge or something a few years back. I'm not sure if you're still doing it, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
The importance behind, you know, both wealth and health and how it goes together.
Oh no, absolutely. So I believe health is one of the biggest things that people need in order to be successful. So it's not only about monetarily being wealthy, but physically, mentally, you have to be healthy. And so a while back, I started what was called the Mind Right, Body Right Challenge, and that's actually have been the biggest challenge of my life. So there were times where I remember, I want to say like 2 years ago, I had started a running challenge. I ran every day for 90 days. I lost over 45 pounds. Was feeling good, feeling great. But then, the grind happened, put some more weight back on, and back to the gym. And so that's been, sort of like a challenge that I haven't fully conquered yet. I am, still active in the gym. And so I work out a lot. I play basketball at least three times a week, and so I'm relatively strong. My body isn't necessarily where I want it to be as of yet, but like I said earlier, it's really about understanding that you're not a failure when you lose, you're a failure when you give up, and so that journey will be part of me forever. I will continue to get my body strong. But also my mind as well, because the health challenge was also about meditating. So I meditate every day. I sit in silence every day because in a world, and if you just turn on your news, you look at social media, you see what's happening in the world. In this current world, you may think that the world is crazy, but you have to quiet your mind and understand that what's happening now is actually a good thing, because you think about a cup. Right? If a cup has dirt in it, in order to get that cup clean, you're gonna have to pour clean water in it. Mm-hmm. But what's gonna happen is that as you're pouring the clean water, the water's gonna get dirty, and the cup's gonna get dirty. So the cup is gonna be overwhelmingly dirty. At first, it was just the bottom of the cup that was dirty, but as you put the water in, the whole cup seems like it's dirty. But that's fine, because just keep pouring that water in, because eventually that dirt is gonna pour out, and then that cup is gonna be clean. And that's what I feel what's happening now is that there were, my metaphor is dirt was the evil and the bad in the world, and then as the good is starting to pour into the world, of course the dirt is going to start to try to scramble to maintain power, but eventually you just got to keep pouring that good, keep pouring that knowledge into that cup, and eventually the cup is going to be clean. So you mentioned, and I know we'll get into it, but you mentioned Jay-Z's album 444. Like, that's why I'm excited about it, because that's more of clean water getting poured into the cup, so eventually the dirt's going to go out.
What do you think the hardest part of either, whether, and not just for you, but just in general, whether it's consistently working out, consistently reading?
Yep.
What's the hardest part about being consistent, or what do you need to stay consistent? For example, if I know I need to make $10,000 this month, and my job is to go into 10 businesses a day and do that. Why do you think most people don't do that?
Yeah, I think that the most difficult part is the beginning of it. That's it. I think that anything that you do for 21 days become a habit, right? And so what happens is, because you're not used to it, that's why you're not consistent with it. Like, no one has to force me to take a shower, right? Because I take a shower every single day of my life. Nobody has to force me to brush my teeth, right? Like basic hygiene stuff, nobody got to force you to do it. It's the same mundane thing over and over, though. It's repetitious, right? But the reason why we do it is because we've been so conditioned to do it, that even if one day the grind gets tough and you just don't take a shower, you don't be like, oh man, and go consecutive days of not taking a shower. You just take a shower the next day, because your norm is what you've been doing, right? And so if someone is not used to knocking on doors, if someone's not used to waking up early, if somebody's not used to accepting no's and keep going, like, if they're not used to it, then when it happens, they're gonna be like, oh, that's it. And so the trick is, how do you trick yourself into doing it consistently for 21 days or more, so that it becomes a habit, so it's not a chore, it's not a thing, right? Because we make it a thing, right? We make it a thing, like, oh man, I gotta knock on 10 doors. But you gotta understand that once you get successful knocking on 10 doors, you're gonna have to knock on 100, right? So you might as well love the process. And that's what I tell people, is that if you don't love the journey, then you're not gonna be successful. You have to love the journey, right? So like, if if whatever you're looking to become, if part of that, if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to be as successful as you want. You might have some success, but you're not going to have as much success as you would like, because at the end of the day, life is a journey, not a destination. And I can tell you firsthand from being a person who has had many successes, I was like, man, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna be a teller. When I become a branch manager, that's it. Became a branch manager, and I was like, oh, what's next, right? And then, I'm like, I wanna be a CEO of a credit union, or I wanna run a whole financial institution. I did that, and I'm like, oh, what's next? I want a best-selling book. So what I'm saying is that if you keep putting things or accomplishments as sort of like this destination, this place you're trying to get to, then you're grinding wrong, right? The grind has to be about the process. And so every single day now, and that's why I don't even care about accomplishments anymore, because every single day I just want to be effective, right? I love what I do. I love, every single day I wake up, I motivate people, right? I motivate and inspire people. I have a radio show that I motivate and inspire. I write books and I motivate and inspire. I do videos, I motivate and inspire. I write financial content for people that I motivate and inspire. So every single day I'm running this race that I love to run. I'm not trying to get nowhere. Like I'm where I want to be. Now it's about multiplying, right? It's about reaching more people and what I want to do. And so the grind for me is just about like, what platforms can I now use, right? And so, what? Maybe I'll do a television show, or maybe I'll, do audios, like whatever it is. It's not necessarily changing my hustle or changing my grind. It's about how do I be more effective within the grind. And so, I would say that people have to love what they do in order to stay motivated, in order to be consistent, in order to do the things that they have to do in order to get to the place that they want to get to.
That's important. So now, this month I typically do a book club. I read a book a month with a select group of people, and we talk about it every week, different parts of the book. So this month for August, I'm reading Never Eat Alone. And the power behind that book is talking about building personal connections, and building your network. How has your network helped you as far as some of your successes, or people you've met? How has that really kind of defined who you are and kind of elevated you to where you are or where you're trying to go?
Yeah, man. My relationships are the biggest currency I have, right? Like, I've made a lot of money, I've lost a lot of money, but I always maintain relationships. And it's the biggest currency I have, and that's why I am fortunate. I'm able to get into certain doors or get into certain places that other people may not be able to get into easily, is because I've had some great relationships. I still have great relationships that give me access. And so, I think that relationships is the best currency. You could, like I said, you could lose money, you could make money, but if people know who you are, people enjoy your character, people know you as a person who is fun to be around, a stand-up person, someone who is not always just trying to leech off of people, but genuinely want to help people as well. It's helped propel me, man. Like, I've had situations where somebody that I may have met that could quote unquote do nothing for me at the time, but I just I just treat everybody like I treat everybody the same, whether it's the janitor or the CEO, and because of that relationship, later on these people become powerful within their career, and then they remember my relationship with them and say, hey Ash, I want to feature you in this article, or I want you to come on and do this radio show. Or a lot of opportunities I get are really relationships that I cultivated throughout the years that just blossomed into something greater. So I would say that relationships are really really important, and they are definitely something that if you don't have good relationships, I would focus on relationships more than just trying to make a buck, because again, when that dollar comes and goes, will you be known as somebody who is stand up? Will you be known as somebody that people could count on? Will people be willing to help you when you need help? And so relationships are really important.
Awesome. So we're gonna wrap this up soon, but I want to get your opinion. both New York dudes. This 444 album, you know,
Yeah.
came out about a month or so ago. You know, what do you think of it? How do you think it's affected the people?
Yeah.
You know, what's your overall thoughts on it?
Man, I think it's the best thing that happened to Black history, right? And so I hear a lot of people say, man, people have been saying this for years, and people had their criticisms about it. But the messenger is important, right? The message is important. So, you know, I grew up on Jay, right? So I was 16 when Jay-Z came out with his first album, right? And so I remember when Reasonable Doubt came out, he was talking to me, right? Because he was, you know, we all idolized the drug dealer. And then so he was talking that drug talk that you understood that nobody ever put on paper. As he started to elevate his life, he started elevating the type of conversations he's having. And so as somebody, you know, I remember when we were all wearing jerseys and he was like, yup, no more jerseys, we're wearing button-ups now. And then you started seeing the gangsters in button-ups, you know what I'm saying? And so Jay-Z is somebody who's very influential. And so the fact that, you know, when like I almost fell out my seat when he said, you know what's most important than going to the strip club? Credit. And I'm like, what the fight go? 12 steps to repay your credit, right? And I was excited though, right? Financial freedom's our only hope, right? That's the message that I've been saying. But what Jay-Z just did is he raised my stock, right? As somebody who has been consistent with this message, now people are like, oh, what about this will? What about this legacy? Because he just, you know, what Jay-Z did was he sprinkled some of it, right? He gave you the knowledge, but it doesn't stop there. Like if you just listen to 444, he's giving you the idea, right? He's the appetizer. He's the one, he got you to the restaurant, right? And he gave you the appetizer. He wet your mouth, pause. He wet your, I mean, I'm from Harlem, sorry.
No,
you know what I'm saying? But he helped you a little bit with the appetizer, right? But now you need the main course still.
Yeah.
You need the main course. And so I love it. I think it's awesome. I think that people who hang on to his every word are now like, okay, so how do I fix my credit? And no lie, I've gotten more book sales and DMs from people who say, I need you to help me fix my credit than ever before. Was it because of Jay? Maybe, I don't know. But there's a direct correlation to his message and how people are reaching out to me now. And you know, I'm excited about it because especially in the age of 45, I don't say the guy's name, but President 45, in the age of where you know, this guy's trying to move everything backwards, he's trying to rewind the clock on everything, we need to understand that financial freedom's our only hope. Right? You can't depend on a system that was never built for you. You have to build your own system. You know, let's build society within society. Like that's what Jay's saying. Build a society within society, which means you gotta own businesses. You gotta cooperative economics. Like that's important, right? You gotta build your credit. You gotta buy property, right? Like he talks about the Jews and how, you know, they own everything because they had good credit. They bought property, right? When you think about, you know, he didn't talk about this, but when you think about the Hindus and the Indians who have something called the spider web doctrine, where all of them come together, they pool their money together, they buy one hotel, they make enough money from a hotel, then they go to buy another hotel, they make enough money, so eventually they conquer the hotel business, right? When you look at the newsstands and Hudson News, like when you look at the newsstand and they own all of the newspaper, you know, the newsstands, that's not by accident. They did the spider web doctrine where they bought one newsstand, they made it popular, they pooled their money together. And so he's just showing us what other ethnicities, other cultures have been able to become wealthy off of our backs too, right? 2017, you know, we have a spending power of $1.5 trillion, right? Which makes us a powerful nation if we pooled our money together. And so now is the time. And so I'm excited, man. I couldn't be more excited. I'm excited about all the moves, you know, that Jay put that out there. But other rappers are making moves too. When you think about Rick Ross, Buy Back the Block, you know, he talks about owning Wingstops. You know, like there's just so many rappers out there that are dropping knowledge now. And so hip hop, you know, is returning to the essence. It's returning to the essence of, you know, teaching the people. And so it's an awesome time. I love it. They're going to be critics. Who cares about the critics? Because I think that even if you know, Drake said, that hate is misplaced love, right? And so the people who hate, they just misplace their love, and they'll figure it out. They'll realize that what's being taught is the right thing, and if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. That shouldn't stop the water from being poured into the cup to get the dirt out. So,
well, you guys heard it first. My man Ash Cash. Definitely follow him. IG. I am Ash Cash.
Yes, sir.
Snapchat or no?
Nah, I'm not on Snap yet, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not on Snap. I tried, but maybe I'm a millennial, but I'm like an OG millennial. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like maybe my OG status now. You know what I'm saying?
So you definitely on IG. I am Ash Cash. Facebook, you can find him Ash Cash. Man, I really appreciate the time you dropped the wealth of knowledge. For us, for me especially someone that I've been following for the last 3+ years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, to reach back out to me, and just for the fans that I have and people that are watching this, this is a treat here. So thank you so much, man.
My brother, I appreciate you, man.
I
Keep doing what
appreciate
you're
it.
doing, because like I told you offline, like I'm watching too, and I love your videos that you're putting together and the knowledge that you're dropping, and I think what you're doing is important. See, and that's what it's about. It's about doing it collectively. It's about supporting each other and helping each other grow. And so I love it. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it, and we gonna win, man. We're gonna keep winning.
I appreciate that,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Take care.